Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Caitlin. I am growing in Zone 6B, Southwest Missouri. Today I am sitting in my sunroom because end of January is the perfect time to get my onion seeds started for the 2026 garden. This is my second year, well, technically kind of a third year try of growing onions. I'll explain what I mean by that, but officially this is my second year attempting to start onions from seed and then get them to transplant out into the garden. One of the reasons why I choose to start my onions from seed versus sets that you might find from your local hardware store is sometimes the sets are prone to bolt, which means they flower before the bulbs are even ready to be picked. Sometimes you will buy sets at the hardware store that just aren't the correct onion for your area to grow. So to alleviate all of that confusion, I just choose to start my onions from seed. So if you are new to growing onions and maybe you're like me and you're just a little inexperienced or just kind of learning the ropes, there's a few things that we need to know. Onions can be really finicky. There's actually a few different varieties to choose from if you're planning to start from seed. And even if you're not planning to start from seed, if you're planning to purchase sets, you need to be aware of the different types of onions that are out there. There are essentially three different types of onions. There's a long day, a short day, and an intermediate. And depending on where you are located within North America, so I'm talking to United States specifically, will determine what type of onion you need to grow. So depending on your climate, your zone, all of that. So before you go and purchase any onion seeds or onion sets, you want to make sure you're purchasing the right type. Now for Zone 6B, we need to be growing either long day or intermediate. The very first year that I kind of attempted to grow onions, I made the mistake of just buying some that sounded good. I liked the name, the description. I didn't know anything about growing onions. I didn't do my research. And I ended up buying a short day variety, which just did not bulb up correctly in my environment. So I actually still have that seed packet. I don't really know what to do with it. If I can find somebody that can grow in a short day environment, maybe I'd give it to them. At this point, it's several years old. But in any case, don't make that mistake. Don't be like me. Make sure you do your research. Ask Google or, your local extension office what type of onion seed you need to be growing. So for a lot of us backyard gardeners, we don't have the ability to grow in a greenhouse. Some of us do, and that's great. For those of us who don't have a greenhouse, really all you need to do is set up something inside for this early season of winter before it turns spring if you're wanting to start some onions. So for me, I would show you my laundry room. That's where I've kind of made a makeshift grow space, but I'm doing laundry right now, so it's really loud in there. But my space is pretty simple. It's just a wire rack. I've got some shop lights that I use for grow lights. And then I have some 1020 trays that I use, as well as a number of seed cell trays that I've accumulated over the years of starting seeds. Just because you don't have a greenhouse, don't let that deter you from starting your own onion seeds inside this year. Now I have all of my onions here labeled. There you go. I keep my seeds in these little photo trays. That's how I keep them organized. And I have my onions, my alliums kind of separated so that I kind of can easily pick them out when it's time to start them. Now I'll be focusing most of my growing today on getting onions as well as bunching onions. So think of like green onions that you might buy at the store, and some leeks. These are the varieties of my bulbing onions that I'll be planting today. I have a red imposta. I could be saying that wrong. In any case, this is going to be my red onion variety. We really love red onions in this house, so I'm really excited to grow some of these. I grew some last year. Last year's onion growing experience wasn't super fruitful, but it was a great opportunity for me to learn. We'll put it there. But I am excited to try these seeds again. So these are my red onions, and then I'm going to be doing a yellow onion as well. So this is a yellow Granix PRR. And again, this is another bulbing onion. I did try to grow this last year. Same thing. It was really hit or miss with my onions last year as I was learning kind of how to do it. So I'm excited to grow these again. Now, years ago when I attempted to grow onions, and like I said, I just purchased some that looked good, sounded good. This was the variety I had purchased, and this is a short day type. And had I, again, done my research, I would have known this does not grow well in my climate. So, note to self, don't buy short day. Like I said, here in Zone 6B in Southwest Missouri, if you're growing in this zone, we want to look at intermediate or long day varieties. Now, for the varieties of leeks that I have two different varieties. I have an Autumn Giant, and then I also have a King Richard. So I've had success, mostly success with this one. I've done the Autumn Giant in the past, but I think I was so new to growing alliums that I probably started these at the wrong time. So I am going to give this variety another shot, but otherwise I know I'll have success with the King Richard. And then for the bunching onions, I just am growing this Tokyo Long White. Super successful, very prolific. It lasted the entire growing season last year. In fact, it was almost comical how big the green onions were getting at the end of the season. But I'll be starting some of these today as well. Now, for what I'm going to be starting my seeds in, there's a couple different methods out there when it comes to starting your onions, leeks, bunching onions. Some gardeners will grow them in like a 6-cell tray like this, or you can buy smaller cell trays as well. And they'll start maybe 1 or 2 seeds in each pocket here. Now, the cool thing with onions is they have, by the time we go to transplant them, their roots they're there, but they're very easy to kind of disturb. That onions are generally okay with being disturbed early on whenever they are seedlings. What some gardeners will do is they will take a tray and they will sow the seeds very thickly in it instead of doing one individual seed per slot. And what that allows a gardener to do is when it comes time to transplant them, they can take those seedlings that will come up and you can kind of tweeze them with tweezers or just pull them apart real gently, and then you can transplant them individually. And this allows you to start a ton more onions in a small space than you would be able to if you're just doing individual ones. Other gardeners might use soil blocking. I don't have that. I don't have a soil blocker here, but that is another method. Essentially, it's just creating dense blocks of soil that you lay on a tray, and then you can drop the seeds in that. Now for my bulbing onions, what I'm going to go ahead and do, I have already determined that I'll be planting out about 120 to 150 bulbing onions in the space that I've allocated this year. And what I've gone ahead and done is kind of that tray method I mentioned, where I'm going to sow them densely and not really worry about, making sure that they're spaced or anything while they're growing inside. And I've got these old trays. They're a part of a indoor seed set that I purchased off Amazon years ago. It used to have like an insert for individual trays. I no longer use that as I've kind of been growing my supplies to nicer stuff. But these are kind of perfect. They fit on the 10 by 20 trays really well. So what I've gone ahead and done, I've got 2 of them. So I'm going to do my red onions in one and my yellow onions in another. I've also drilled holes here for drainage. So just to make sure if you are going to use a tray to sow your onions in, just make sure there's some sort of drainage so that you don't have really soggy soil. And that will just help the seedling as it comes in. And then once I get these started, this is the 10 by 20 tray. It's not very clean. I mean, it's dusty, but this is where we'll set our trays, as we fill them up with our seedlings, and then they will be able to be bottom watered, or even, if I top water, that will drain out into this tray without making a mess. So the other things that I'm starting, the leeks and the bunching onions, I will go ahead and use these smaller 6 cells for those, because I won't be growing quite as many of that type of allium as I am as the bulbed onions. Now, if you've watched any of my other seed starting videos, you know that I use a seed starting mix. I don't purchase it, I actually create it. It's a combination of some peat moss, some perlite, and some vermiculite, about equal ratios of each. I just keep it in a big bucket here in my grow room space. What I will do before I fill my trays up is I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of water added to this, just to make the soil more clumpy, and just kind of easily make sure that everything settles into the trays. This is also going to help with the actual seed sowing. Whenever I drop the seeds in, they'll have something to kind of grip to if the soil is already a little damp. What's a little gardening without getting your hands dirty, right? So I'm just going to mix this in. Okay, and now we just kind of start filling. All right, and as you can see, I've gone ahead and filled these up. Not too concerned about these being filled up all the way. I'm going to have grow lights on these anyway once they start to germinate. So we'll be able to, not have to worry about filling it up all the way and using all of that soil. But yeah, these are ready to go. So let's go ahead and get our seeds and take a look at what we are getting ready to plant. So if you've never grown onions, you can see the seeds are relatively tiny, but they're not like super small. So they're manageable, but they're certainly smaller than most seeds out there. But this is why the scatter heavy on a tray works really, really well. So let's go ahead and get these planted. What do you think about that, Ben? So everything has been sown. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to lightly cover the soil with a little bit more of my starter mix, just to cover the seeds up, and then I will make sure I label each one of these so that I remember what variety is growing. My favorite way to label is to use some blue tape, painter's tape. I'll write with a permanent marker, which I successfully smeared all over my hand. And then I will label each one of these, just put the tape down, and that generally works for me. Well, I made a grave error and a realization. This onion that I purchased last year, which I thought I looked up intermediate, turns out it's a short day. So that's kind of a bummer. I don't know why I missed that again this year. I've gone ahead and started what was left of this seed packet, and I did grow these last year, but they did not bulb up very big, and now I am realizing the reason why. So, all right, lessons learned again. Do what I say. Note to self, don't buy short day. I need to get some more intermediates. So like I said, I went ahead and started these. I will probably buy another seed packet of a yellow or white onion to also grow. It's not too late for me to get another onion started. So, but yeah, we'll just have to find a home for them, because I was planning on growing these in just my reds, but it looks like I will be experimenting. Who knows? Maybe our season will cooperate and I can get these short days to work here. Well, here's this little grow shelf. Like I said, it's not super fancy. I may be expanding it this year. We'll see if I need to. A lot of it right now is just a bunch of storage, but you can see where I have added my onion seeds and my leeks. I have some humidity domes here that I placed on top. What I like to do is not only did I kind of moisten up the growing seed starting soil before I planted the seeds, but I also spritzed the tops really good with some water. The most important thing with any kind of seed starting is just to make sure that your soil stays damp to some extent. Not too damp, but not too dry. If it dries out, a lot of times seedlings will just completely die. So it's a little bit finicky that way, so I do have to keep an eye on them. But once the seeds start to germinate, meaning they pop up, then I can take the humidity domes off, and then I'll just keep an eye on making sure that they don't dry out. When the onions start to germinate, they look like blades of grass. So they do grow a little bit different from some of the other vegetables if you're starting them from seed. So that also is the reason why they're so easy to pull apart whenever we go to plant them out. Now, what will happen is these will get transplanted, sometime maybe in March or April, depending on how the weather's doing. The seedlings, as they grow, they're going to keep growing taller and taller. And what we often will do, especially if we're starting from seed, is to give the onions what's called a haircut. And that means when it grows to be 5-6 inches tall, we come in and we kind of just chop it down to about 3 inches. And what that does is it just keeps the seedling kind of healthy and happy while it's inside. It helps it to kind of put that energy into strengthening the base and just growing to be strong. And then once it gets transplanted, some gardeners will give them a haircut when they're out in the garden. It just depends on, again, the thickness of each seedling. So ideally, when we transplant these, they will be about pencil width thick. So fingers crossed that works out well. But yeah, we'll just continue to keep an eye on these and hopefully they'll grow in well and we can get these guys transplanted in a couple of months. All right, guys, thank you for hanging out with me today as we get the very first things started for the 2026 garden. It's pretty exciting when we get a chance to start our onions. Still kicking myself for planting another short day variety this year. I mean, I guess I need to take my own advice, right? Leave a comment down below if you live in a zone around 6B and you've successfully grown short day. Maybe it's doable. But I will probably be looking for another fail-safe variety, which, speaking of, I need to know what works well in my climate. So if you know that too, leave a comment down below. Like always, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks again for hanging out with me and stay tuned for more gardening content. Until next time, take care. Bye.